What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 54 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're coming off a football Sunday full of great football for both of our teams. Both of our teams really dominated in both of our teams' games, is what we would have liked to say coming into this episode. But honestly, we have a lot to unpack. Both of our teams lost. All right, spoiler alert. The 49ers lost to the Cardinals, and they dominated for most of the game. It was kind of, it had shades of like what happened 2 weeks ago against the Rams. And I think even last week in the episode, I said, does beating the Patriots mean that the 49ers are back? I was a little hesitant I know Fred Warner said that they were back after last week's game, but it's the Patriots. You know what I mean? So I mentioned that the 49ers were going to have to account for Kyler Murray's rushing ability, and the first touchdown for the Cardinals in this game was Kyler Murray on a 50-yard rush. That was more of a designed run, and I think more of my concern with Kyler Murray was just his ability to extend plays and really kind of scramble within the pocket, which, he had plenty of that in this game, and this has been a problem since Robert Saleh has been the defensive coordinator back. It's been a problem for over 5 years now. So I wouldn't blame Nick Sorensen for that in particular, because it's we've had two great defensive coordinators who just whatever the 49ers scheme / philosophy / personnel, they just have trouble with mobile quarterbacks such as Kyler Murray. So they couldn't necessarily contain Kyler Murray. And for the most part in the first half, they were able to contain James Conner until late in the game. They just the theme of my description of this game is just that they couldn't finish. This has been now a second game in the past 3 games where the 49ers have failed to finish the game. And both of these games were divisional games. And I'd say in a typical standard year, any divisional game is going to be very competitive. For whatever reason, I just noticed, I remember most of the time when it comes to divisional games, it's pretty close rather than, blowout city. Obviously there's those years here and there. And more recently, we have been more accustomed to the 49ers being a little bit more dominant, because I think 2 years ago they swept the NFC West. And then last year they only lost to the Rams in the NFC West. And that was week 17 when all the starters were sitting. But, let me get to more specifically the stats. The 49ers did a good job, I think, in the first half, but then, later on, James Conner finished with 86 yards. Kyler Murray finished with 7 carries for 83 yards and a rushing touchdown. Obviously, the one that I mentioned that, to open off the first score for the Cardinals in the game. And that was a play that I think Devondre Campbell being kind of old and a little bit slow, made the difference of like not having Dre Greenlaw there, being able to actually, if not make the tackle on Kyler Murray, at least push him back inside. Devondre Campbell gave up the outside leverage, and then Kyler Murray was just off to the races. Aside from that, like Brock Purdy, I think didn't have his best game today. He didn't play a good game, in my opinion. I thought that he was very late to a couple reads. He was staring down a couple receivers. So when I pull up the stats, it's actually kind of jarring in terms of like the way he was targeting, the players today. Brandon Ayuk had a fantastic game, and I think part of the reason why is because Brandon Ayuk has been getting open, and like all the metrics would say that Brandon Ayuk actually does have a really good separation score on a lot of routes. Like I've heard, people across like, I guess like the football community talking about it, in like the fantasy football community, which is why I traded for Brandon Ayuk. But like actual football aside, Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle both had 8 receptions. The next highest receiver to have, to have a reception was Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, and Jordan Mason, all tied with 1 reception. So you go from 16 funneled to 2 different players, and then 1 each for 3 of the 49ers' best weapons on offense. Juwan Jennings has been killing it this season. Deebo Samuel, I don't know where he was at in this game. He got a couple carries too. Deebo had 3 carries for 9 yards. I mean, 3 yards per carry, it's not great, but I know Jordan Mason fumbled late in this game, and that's one of the biggest reasons why the 49ers lost this game. And I always hate to like pin it on one player or one thing, but I would have liked to see Jordan Mason used a little bit more consistently throughout the game. He had 14 carries for 89 yards, still averaged 6.4 yards per carry, had no touchdowns. I don't know. Something was off today, and I think Purdy not really getting in his rhythm and making the quick reads, where that's probably like Purdy's best skill set is like, it's not like one of his skills definitely is his mobility in the pocket and like the ability to extend plays. But I'd say Purdy's probably best trait is being able to process quickly and get the ball like where it needs to be and throw with anticipation. So, I don't think that Purdy, really stood out in that category today. It was one of those days, and now the 49ers are sitting at 2-3. They are sitting at 2-3, and the question or the theme just sort of starts to keep creeping up. Like, is this a Super Bowl hangover year? Is there still time for the 49ers to turn it around? Yes. We've seen them do it before. Will they do it? That's another question. Every single year is a brand new team. You can't rely on past performances in order to dictate how things are going to shake out in the future. I would say that the schedule coming up for the 49ers is going to be pretty rough, and we will get into 49ers versus Seahawks, after I'm done breaking down, the Cardinals game. But another big reason why I think the 49ers lost this game is, I don't think Shanahan necessarily had a plan. And, he definitely did not have a plan for what would happen if his kicker went down. In this game, Jake Moody got injured. He was making a tackle on a kickoff. He was covering, and he, as he was making the tackle, his foot kind of got like planted in the ground and he hurt his ankle. It was one of those things where it's just awkward. And now he's going to be probably missing a significant amount of time. He's going to be missing at least a couple weeks due to that ankle injury. And I'm pretty sure that's on the foot that he kicks with. That is his $1 million foot right there. And he injured it. So the 49ers had to go for it on like 4th and long late in the game. It was like at least 4th and 16. And it was like, well, they kind of have to go for it because, I mean, it was weird because Mitch Wishnowsky ended up making a field goal in this game. And then Kyle Juszczyk, for whatever reason, started warming up like he was going to kick and then never did. I actually don't remember if he was the place kicker on kickoffs and maybe he was part of the coverage. I don't I don't remember. The kickoff hasn't been like super duper fun to pay attention to this year, like how we thought it might be. But I'm pretty sure it was just Wishnowsky. And then the announcers even pointed out that Wishnowsky was not even, warming up for like a potential game-winning kick. He was just kind of standing there on the sideline. And I get it. Like, that's not his job. He is just, by default, the other guy who knows how to put the ball on his foot properly, Yeah. But I think the thing is, he used to do kickoffs. And I know it's different. A ball on a tee versus having somebody hold it down and then you kicking it through the uprights. Like, I get it. But still, it's like, is it just going to be all or nothing, touchdown or nothing here? Like, get going. It's like football 101. You have to be ready, or just any sport in general. You have to be ready to take advantage of an opportunity when your number gets called. And so Wishnowsky could have been the hero of the day. The 49ers could have been 3-2, and we could have been like, wow, they were able to overcome not having a kicker. Instead, they just kind of looked, well, fuck, man, we don't have a kicker today. That sucks. Like, I even think the Arizona Cardinals had to resort to their backup kicker. And I get it. The Niners, their kicker got injured during the game. I'm not necessarily sure when the injury designation was for the Cardinals kicker. I actually didn't even know that they were playing a backup kicker until I went to TJ Maxx today with Pia, like, at some point after the game. And the cashier was like, hey, what happened to the Niners? And like, hey, I heard that Arizona, like what's going on with Arizona's kicker? He didn't play today, and I was like, I didn't even know that. Like, I wasn't like super focused on who was kicking for the opposing team. But nonetheless, there was a moment in the game where this thought creeped into my mind. The Niners, like I said, they were very much in control of this game throughout, except for the end. It started to kind of, weaken once the second half started. But, they had a 10-point lead late in the third quarter. And I'm like, man, if they go into this fourth quarter with a 10-point lead, I said it a couple weeks ago, I never want to see them have a 10-point lead ever again in the fourth quarter. And they went into the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. And that's the reason why they lost the game, because Kyle Shanahan just hates having a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and just says, hey guys, let's give it up to the other team. We played pretty good, but they got us. They got us right where they want us. No, I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, it's poor clock management. It's not like, here's the thing. Jordan Mason fumbling, I feel like really, really makes this the Niners win the game if Jordan Mason doesn't fumble. I understand that. But like, man, when people say that Shanahan needs to run the balls in these, run the ball in this situation, or, down the stretch, milk the clock, and then he does it, he finally, all right, he's running the ball when he's supposed to be. Then a fumble occurs, and then everybody's like, see, this is why he doesn't do it. You think you know more than Kyle Shanahan. Like, no, he's finally, that's the right play call. Run the ball. Jordan Mason, you have to be better. I mean, Jordan Mason knows. I don't need to tell him. Jordan Mason has had a great season so far. It was It was that, and it was Purdy's interception at the end that were just, you know, they were shitty turnovers at the worst times, right? Mason Mason obviously with the fumble in the red zone, and then Purdy, to try and get the team in position to win the game, held the ball for too long. Pressure came in. He had Kittle wide open, but I guess Purdy was focusing on Ayuk, and didn't really get to his progressions. Had Kittle wide open. Then once he saw it and decided to throw it, got his arm smacked, ball flew straight up in the air, and then Arizona comes down with the football. Game over.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you let a team hang around. The 49ers didn't close the door. They left the door wide open, and Arizona busted right through. Another 10-point lead, gone, vanished. It never happened. Never happened. Cardinals win. Who cares that you were dominating the entire game? You have to finish the game.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned a lot of offensive struggles so far, but it felt like their defense was just getting gashed, really. In the second half.
In the second half, yes. I talked a little bit with my brother once I got home, and he pointed out two things that I kind of wanted to talk about. First off, I think D. Winters needs to get a little bit more action. I think D. Winters, I don't know, he just brings a spark. And does that Kyler Murray touchdown happen if D. Winters is in there? I don't know. He's got fresher legs. He's faster. He's a thumper. I thought for sure he was going to get a 15-yard penalty on that hit on. He had this big hit on the other team's tight end, McBride. Yeah. And I was like, after he hit McBride, I swear it looked like helmet-to-helmet contact in live action, and it was clear and concise. And afterwards, he's banging his helmet, because he knew he made a big hit, and he was celebrating. And McBride was fine, which I guess was fine. And no harm, no foul, I guess. On the sideline, you could kind of see McBride maybe a little shaken up because he's just coming off a concussion. But I was like, dude, he just might have just knocked him out of the game. No penalty. I would like to see D. Winters in a little bit more. Because I just think that he's electric. And then the other thing my brother pointed out to me was just piss poor tackling. The 49ers trying to arm tackle. And then, I know on the James Conner touchdown, I think it was a touchdown. It was near the goal line. I'm trying to remember if it was a touchdown, but Niners just, were trying to arm tackle him, and he just ran through it like it was nothing. It's easy money for a running back. And, so I think the 49ers, it wasn't all bad on defense. There was a moment, I think, where Nick Bosa, he had another interception, which I thought, man, is he finally going to take it to the house? It was exactly, if you didn't watch the game today, let me paint the picture. Think about the 2019 game against the Carolina Panthers where Nick Bosa is just right place, right time, is able to snag the ball. It's like a designed screen pass or whatever, bubble screen, whatever have you. Nick Bosa just rips the ball out of the air and then starts taking it the other way. And then it's like, oh my God, he's going to take this for a pick six. That for a defensive end is crazy. And no, Nick Bosa forgot to unhitch the trailer, and he got stopped along the way. And I honestly forget if the 49ers were I think they were able to score off that, but let's see here. Checking out Mike. Yeah, checking out Gypsy Mike. I was waiting for that helmet to helmet to get him ejected, and the refs didn't even review it. That was some BS. I thought he was going to get ejected. Where it's still talking about D. Winters. that was for sure. I thought clear as day. I don't think I've seen a more clear and concise helmet to helmet. But hey, I mean, am I mad about it? Like that's the football that I grew up loving, but that's not today's football. So, like, I mean, I'm a Niner fan. I'm not gonna say, "Hey, eject my guy," you know, like that. That would just be like kind of soft on my part. But yeah, the 49ers have a lot to clean up still. It's still very early in the season. It's barely week 5, and it's an 18-week season. Oh, by the way, checking out Gypsy Mike. Thank you for tuning into the channel, sharing your comment. We really appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot to clean up. I thought Shanahan needs to incorporate the run more on early downs. And I think work play action a little bit more into that. As for the defense, just fundamentals, man. Just no more arm tackling, pursue. And something needs to be done about the run defense because they were stopping Arizona early in the game. Like I was literally like thinking early in the game, they listened to my game plan that I had laid out besides the whole Kyler Murray thing. They were stopping James Conner. That was like one of the 3 legs that I had of what they had to do. And they just couldn't contain him the whole way. And, I guess you can only hold on for so long. But yeah, can we like fast forward a couple weeks, Mike? Can we fast forward to when the Jets fire Robert Saleh and he can come back to the 49ers? Can we do that?
I guess that technically would be legal, huh? Because I want to say Matt Patricia got fired by the Lions and in the same season went to the Patriots. But I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. And this is a situation now where I remember early in the offseason, I wanted Bill Belichick as the defensive coordinator, and I would feel so much better about the defense right now. Like, I think there also is this, like, not bitter taste, but, like, it's just, like, they interviewed Nick Sorensen last year, and then they decided to go with Steve Wilkes and then fired Steve Wilkes, and it's like, hey, Nick, it's your job. So, I don't know. But I guess we can kind of recap our predictions. Spoiler alert, Mike and I were both wrong. The 49ers, we both thought that the Niners should have won this game, but obviously they did not. So we are wrong. And that leaves Mike at 1 correct prediction and me at 2 correct predictions. And I still have picked the 49ers for every single, pick that I've done on this channel. So let's see if we can sort of keep that same energy. Am I going to pick the 49ers this week? Let's talk about it. 49ers versus Seahawks. I like this matchup, honestly. I thought the 49ers versus Cardinals was a bad matchup for the Niners. I thought it was the right time to play the Cardinals while they're, they didn't look like a team that was super imposing for most of the game. I thought the Cardinals were, they were kind of down on themselves, and they were, and most of the game, they kind of looked defeated, but the Niners didn't shut the door. Cardinals came back. This week, I think Geno honestly impressed me against the Lions. I don't know. What did you watch that game, Mike? The Seahawks versus you turned it on towards the end because you had Kenneth Walker in fantasy. But Geno was a little bit more mobile than I remember ever seeing Geno. But I still think that he likes to operate mainly within the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see here. The only matchup that I know is going to kill the 49ers this week is going to be the Kenneth Walker versus the Niners run defense matchup. I don't know how you feel about that.
That sounds great to me.
Who are you? Well, no, we'll talk fantasy after. Mike has Kenneth Walker on his team, and I think Mike is sort of praying that that the Niners defense does not get fixed this week. But
Stop the pass as much as you want, guys, but don't stop the run.
no,
Honestly, you know what though? Here, I'll
it's
say
a
this.
short week. It's going to be in Seattle. You know, it kind of reminds me of like how the 49ers went into Seattle a couple years. No, it was just last year. They played on a Thursday night in Seattle as well. It was Thanksgiving. But I mean, this time they have no McCaffrey. I don't know. How do you feel? What do you see from this game, Mike? Who do you think is going to win? And then I guess I'll go first on the Raiders versus Steelers when we get to that. I do see a Raider fan, you know, Raider Ryan in the comments. We will get to the Raider section of the video. Stay tuned. We will get to that.
I just think the Seahawks are coming off of 2 straight losses. And this one against the Giants was not a good one. No loss is good, but against the Lions, it was like, well, that was a hard-fought game where the Lions clearly kind of won it at the end, but the Seahawks still fought until the very end. But against the Giants, it's like, man, you guys are losing the whole game, and then right when they had their chance to get back in it, and Geno had a really big, scramble for like 20-plus yards at the end of this game. And then their game-tying field goal attempt gets blocked, returned for a touchdown, game over. You're not coming back from that with like less than a minute left. Against the Giants, again. The thing that I noticed, being that I'm a Kenneth Walker fantasy manager, I noticed that for some weird reason against the New York Giants, the Seahawks refused to run the ball. Like, they ran Kenneth Walker probably less than 8 times in this game against the Giants. And, like, it might be far less, like 4 attempts. I would assume that against the Niners, they will look, if not, emphasize getting that fixed and evening that out. But Kenneth, I think they probably will go through.
He had 5 carries for 19 yards. They did not commit to the run against the Giants. Geno Smith threw 40. He threw 40 times.
Yep. So I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's the Giants have a really bad defensive backfield or something. But like, Seahawks probably win this game if they just run the ball and carry out a normal game plan. So maybe they'll get back in the groove of things against the Niners. Maybe they won't. I don't know. I think the Niners are a better team, but both teams are coming out of a weird, last couple of games. And really, I don't think anybody's taking this division by storm yet, and this would be a big game to do that. Personally, where's this game being played?
It's going to be in Seattle. So it's going to be primetime Thursday night football in the Seahawks house. Seahawks are typically, they are very good in front of their home. It's hard for the Niners to beat Seattle in Seattle, is what I'm trying to say. Like, they have a good home crowd. The 12th man has been notorious for like 14 years now, or 12 years now.
I have a really hard time picking this game. I'm going to go with my gut and go with the Niners.
You're going to go with the Niners? Okay. Yeah. I am looking right now at their schedule, and their schedule does not get easier. Next week, the Niners have the Chiefs. And I think if the 49ers lose this game to the Seahawks, we have to seriously question, are they going to miss out on the playoffs? Right. They are currently 2-3. If they lose to the Seahawks, they're 2-4 going against Kansas City. And then I think they could beat Dallas, but still, it's like you don't want to be 2-4 going against the Chiefs, because the Chiefs could bury you.
They're probably going to be 2-5. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the 49ers, I like their matchup in this. I would like to see a lot more involvement of more of their weapons rather than just a funnel to one singular player. It was the Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle show, and that was it. With a little bit of Jordan Mason sprinkled in between. Give me the 49ers in this one. And am I super confident about this? No, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think both teams really want to win this game because whoever wins this game is going to be in first place in the NFC West, right? Following the result. So give me the 49ers in this game only simply because their backs are going to be against the wall. Like this right now is a crisis point in their season, I'd say. Their backs are against the wall now. Super Bowl hangover? Is that just what we're going to have this year? Like, just go out there, win the damn game, take care of business in Seattle, and then, don't even focus on who's next week. I'm gonna cross this out. Let's not even. If you're a 49er watching this, which I know no Niners are going to be watching this video, just focus on this one game at a time. Pass rush should be able to sack Geno Smith a couple times. You're going to struggle a little bit against Kenneth Walker, but if you're lucky, the Seahawks offense is not going to commit to the run like they didn't this week against the New York Giants. And yeah, on offense, just get everybody involved. Brock Purdy needs to be better about going through his progressions and not just staring one player down. Give me the 49ers in this game. Yeah. Not super confident. Like I said, we cannot pick the 49ers to be a lock in any game this, for the rest of the season. I just don't see it. We thought the Rams game was a lock, and I think the Rams game was a lesson. Cardinals game, the Cardinals going into this game were 1-3. The Niners could have just buried their season right there. This would have just been another lost year for the Cardinals. Now they're kind of back in the mix. They have the same record right now as the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Niners need to take care of business on Thursday Night Football. I'm going to go ahead and take these comments, and then we're going to get over to the Raiders side of the show. But yeah, let me see here. Raider Ryan says, I love the Raiders, but I'm picking over, felt over for them next week. You're talking about like betting, right? You're taking the over?
Or maybe he's, I'm not sure. Oh, picking the over. Gotcha.
The over. And then checking out Gypsy Mike says, you guys need a new quarterback, Ryan. That's where Mike is at. Mike and I were like talking about this like before the show. Mike is fed up with the Jimmy Garoppolos, the Gardner Minshew's, the Aiden O'Connell's, just the mediocrity at quarterback, So, I mean, we did see Mark Davis talking to Shedeur Sanders. Maybe there might be a new sheriff in town, right, Mike?
We will have to see.
I don't think Mike
likes of options.
I don't think you don't like the Shedeur Sanders idea, huh? Because simply like there is the added element of like Deion Sanders being involved.
It's Deion, and which I like Deion. It's just now that he has this son for quarterback and he's the head coach, and once he became the head coach, his son became the starting quarterback. I was like, all right. And like he's had his great moments. And I do think that he is a fine prospect. I'm so fed up with this team right now. And their quarterback situation dating back to Derek Carr, and especially before Derek Carr, really. I don't want them to get the wrong guy. And I think that if you put 3 guys lined up between Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, and Shadur Sanders, and you put a gun to my head, I'm not picking Shadur Sanders.
Mm. Well, Raider Ryan clarifies, he just clarified he's taking Overfelt High School over the Raiders next week. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh my God. So, I mean, I think we know where Ryan stands when we start talking about, Raiders versus Steelers, but we're going to get to the Broncos first. Let me just get to all your guys' comments here. Raider Ryan says, I feel we have some division in the locker room as well. I believe our team wanted Aiden O'Connell to start, but AP gave it up to Uncle Rico. I know Mike wanted O'Connell to start.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been the quarterback decision. It could have been many things. I mean, Robert Spillane, who's been a great Raider in his career with the Raiders. This is now, his second year with us. He was asked on some podcast or something like, something relative to Devontae Adams, which a week later, last week's pod, I literally said, like, should we move on to the Raiders topic? We might as well just get into the Raiders now, right? Or is there more Niner comments?
No. There's more comments real quick. Okay. I do want to get to at least this one comment from Raider Ryan, but checking out Gypsy Mike has very strong, I guess, strong feelings towards Luke Getsy in a positive spin. But, he's talking to Raider Ryan saying, Ryan, I like Getsy. He was scapegoated at Chicago. AP needs to try to get Tyson Bagent for Getsy. He knows Getsy's playbook and he's going to win Super Bowls. Yeah, win some Super Bowls for somebody. I hope that you're talking about Luke Getsy because, I mean, I will respectfully disagree. I don't think Tyson Bagent is not only not going to win a Super Bowl as a starter, I have doubts that he is going to be a starter in the NFL. That's just kind of like the way it works. But, I think Luke Getsy's scheme right now is a little bit broken on the rushing side for the Raiders because they cannot figure out how to properly run block, and Zamir White didn't play and that did not help the Raiders. And we will talk about that. Raider Ryan says, my wife's a 49ers fan and my 9-year-old son is a Seahawks fan. She's trying to find some content. Raiders just have more options. Yeah, man, I think this is the perfect channel and this is the perfect week for you to, tune in for the first time. And I just want to say welcome to the channel. As you can tell here, we talk about the 49ers and we talk about the Raiders. This is sort of like our little Battle of the Bay sort of podcast, as you will. We're called the Silver and Gold. Yeah, we try to keep it equal, but sometimes there's just more to talk about for one team than the other. And yeah, so I think like every single time I try to explain the concept of the channel to somebody, it always comes down to, well, if you're a 49er fan, you absolutely know somebody or have a family member who is a Raider fan. That's just the way things are in the Bay Area. Like, if you grew up here. And then vice versa. If you're a Raider fan, you know somebody who's a Niner fan. So, I'm glad that you guys were able to stop on this video and live stream for that, for that matter. And yeah, we're going to be here all season. We did weekly episodes every week last season, and the same thing is going to continue to roll. There's no plan to stop. So yeah. Raider Ryan says, I'm still not sold on Getsy, but I do see a lack of execution from Minshew in our offense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just Minshew, though. I think there is a disconnect, like a fundamental disconnect in their run blocking. And I think that is holding up the whole rest of the offense because teams know this team is not going to run the ball. They can jump routes. They know they're throwing it, and a lot of Getsy's things are like designed, there'll be screens. Getsy likes to get a little bit creative, with the playbook a little bit. So I don't know. I think that things are not going to get better for this Luke Getsy offense with the Raiders until they fix the schematic run blocking mistakes. All right. Checking out Gypsy Mike says Seahawks couldn't stop Detroit. If the 49ers can get more pressure on Geno, they can win. Yeah, I mean, it's not just about that though. Like, the Niners were getting pressure on Matthew Stafford a couple weeks ago. It's just really the Niners, in order for them to beat the Seahawks this week, they can't let Kenneth Walker get going because, once Kenneth Walker gets going, then it's complementary football. The offense starts to get the passing going, and then the momentum just starts rolling that way. Niners absolutely need to get all their playmakers going. And yeah, I mean, getting pressure on Geno will dictate the pace of the game. And I do like the 49ers' chances of winning if they are able to, not only just sack Geno, but just get pressure on him the entire game. It'll cause him to turn the ball over, or at very least, to get the Seahawks to punt the ball over to the 49ers. And then that's when you get your playmakers involved. So let's see. Checking out Gypsy Mike says, I'm not a Sanders fan at all. Milroe or Ward would be my pick, but neither are NFL ready, and we'll have to sit a year or two. I think if you're going to pick a quarterback that's going to sit a year or two, just don't pick the quarterback and just wait. Arch Manning is literally right there. In a year or two, Arch Manning will be the top guy. And guess what? If you don't pick the quarterback, you're probably going to be in prime position to get Arch Manning.
But if the quarterback has to wait a year anyways, it's like you're probably going to be in prime position to get him anyways. And then at that point, it's like, well, we hedged our bet because every team and their mom is going to be racing for that number one pick to get Arch Manning. Obviously, teams aren't going to tank, but like whoever has the first pick is picking him. They're not going to trade out of it unless they're like the Chiefs, and it's like, hey, highest bidder, what's up? But other than that, like you probably can't name more than 5 teams that wouldn't pick him. I know that sounds crazy, like, oh, the Packers would, oh, the this team would, the whatever, but they would. The Vikings, they just drafted J.J. McCarthy. They would pick Arch Manning if they were put in that position. They absolutely, and then you could trade J.J. McCarthy. So why can't the Raiders pick a Ward, Cam Ward, or Jalen Milroe? And then a year later, it's like, well, we still sucked. Let's pick the better quarterback, and we can trade the backup guy. Or I wouldn't keep him. Yeah, I wouldn't keep him because then it's like you have you're kind of messing with his career. Say it's Milroe. You're messing up his career, but also if Manning struggles at first, it's like you might have this drama, of like, oh, should the other guy come in or something, So
yeah,
at that point, you have to trade the other quarterback to a team that like missed out on the draft quarterback, that the quarterbacks in that year's draft, and kind of just looking for like a leftover piece, kind of like a Justin Fields type trade,
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Like you have to hedge your bet, because if you go into this draft, it's like, why are we going to draft a quarterback, man? We're going to pick Arch Manning next year. You don't know that. You have to pick the quarterback. So that's just the position they're in. They have to pick a quarterback. It sucks, but here we are.
Well, I mean, you could know that though. Like if
you're going to tank, yeah.
They just trade all of their stars for draft picks,
and they're on the right track.
Yeah. So, we will talk about that in a minute, actually. Checking out Gypsy Mike says Bagent threw for more yards. Bagent threw for more yards than the top 4 quarterbacks drafted last year combined, over 17,000 yards and 159 touchdowns. If not for bad route running, he'd have went 4-0 without any preseason or game reps with starters. Well,
he's solid. He is solid, and I know he had like a good preseason this year. I will say, buy a lotto ticket. If this dude goes out there and wins a Super Bowl for an NFL team, Nick Foles style, You heard it here first on Silver and Gold. You know,
I want you to
I
know,
don't
Gypsy Mike,
I don't hate it.
If they, I mean, if it happens, if Tyson Bagent like just lights it up, I mean, even if he just becomes a starter again and like is actually having a good season, I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna say Gypsy Mike called it, and you're gonna be right here on this channel, and I'm gonna say, man, you know, I really should have listened to that guy and put money on all the sleeper picks, on all the overs on Tyson Bagent. But right now, I just don't see the path to him seeing the field anytime soon because Caleb Williams is, you know, I think he's the clear-cut plan at quarterback, at least for the near future for Chicago.
I'll say this. You know, I can't like guarantee that you're right about him, you know, Bagent winning Super Bowls for a team. But I will say that the thought of trading for him, not at all a bad idea. In fact, I'd say it's a good idea. Just to get somebody out there who, like you said, knows the playbook and has succeeded in, you know, fulfilling the playbook in the past for the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. But you also don't want to give up too much draft capital. I think he might have been undrafted, but let's just say he was a 5th-round pick. Like, I don't know what the Bears are asking for him, but personally, like, I see you have a very good opinion of him. I wouldn't give up probably more than a 6th-round pick for him, just because clearly we need picks, you know? And it's like, hey, we have Minshew, we have Aiden O'Connell. Why are we giving up picks to go get a quarterback when we plan on drafting a quarterback soon? So if this season's a lost season, I don't give a shit. We have to do what we have to do to go get that quarterback.
Yep. It's like we keep saying, just take your medicine. Don't fight it. Just, you know, the Raiders right now are not serious contenders without the quarterback. Almost no team is a serious contender without the quarterback. How the Niners were able to do it with Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, they were a serious contender for many years. It was a good system and a superstar-studded team. But before I get to checking out next comment, I do want to ask, is it too early to say that the Raiders made the wrong decision in not trading for this other Chicago Bears quarterback for a 6th-round pick in Justin Fields?
You know, the hard thing with that is I've been seeing back and forth on Twitter of like, oh, see, it was just the Bears as far as why Justin Fields wasn't good. Like, as in, the Bears have struggled so far this year, right? And I think there's 2 things to that. One, they signed on the Seahawks offensive coordinator from last season. I'm forgetting it's Shane Waldron, I think.
Sounds about right.
I believe that's his name. Not that good of an offensive coordinator. He was not that good for the Seahawks last year, and so far this season, until this week, the Bears have struggled offensively. So a lot of people have been kind of victory lapping of like, see, that was the problem in Chicago of like, it's just consistently bad play callers between him and Luke Getsy. Or it's just Chicago. Like, Chicago's just a bad place. And I just can't help but think that Luke Getsy doesn't seem to be a quarterback whisperer by any means. And I think a good quarterback coach, a good offensive coordinator that can work well with a quarterback is what a Justin Fields needs. And he didn't have that in Chicago with Luke Getsy. So I just don't think Getsy and Fields matched. Like, oh yes, excellent. They have, he could just roll right in with the same playbook, kind of, but it wasn't working in Chicago. So why should we expect it to suddenly work in Las Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
All right. So checking out Gypsy Mike says Williams runs around like a chicken with its head cut off. Bagent, Ripien, and Reed outplayed him in the preseason. Daniels was a better quarterback, was a lot better quarterback, and should have went number 1. Yeah, I am not refuting honestly, a single thing that you said, I do think that Mike and I both have been vocal about, or at least I at least have been vocal about my concerns about not Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams' skill set, translating to the NFL, because I mean, in college football, you're able to run 20 yards back and like evade all these linemen, but you're going against grown men in the NFL. It's led to at least a couple huge sacks, in
Yeah.
in the NFL, and
I'm not
I don't think he looks as sensational as advertised. He looks a little bit more
yeah.
average. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that his career is going to go in this direction because I think that Caleb Williams went first overall for a multitude of reasons, including a very, very great arm as far as arm talent goes. But his college to NFL translation, if you will, reminds me a lot of Johnny Manziel. Of like, wow, he's an artist out there just doing some insane stuff off the cuff, in the pocket, getting outside of the pocket, extending plays. That was Johnny Manziel to a T. He was playing street ball in college, and that doesn't happen in the NFL. And we saw what happened to that. He struggled and he sucked. I think he also had a personal issue or two of like not studying and shit like that. But, like I said, I don't think Caleb Williams is going down that route. I think he's going to be fine. And if he struggles, I think he'll fall more in line with like a Trevor Lawrence of like, he'll keep his job, but he just won't be amazing like we thought he was going to be, Whereas Jaden Daniels, I mean, this is the thing I was talking about with my stepdad just earlier today was like, all right, the Commanders beat the dog shit out of another team this week. The Cleveland Browns. They beat them like 31-6 or some shit. And the Texans, in the first half, had a very strong lead on the Buffalo Bills, who were coming into this week as one of the top teams in the league. And the Texans admittedly have been kind of like up and down, not very consistent so far this year, but yet still came in 3-1. Bills came back in the second half. Josh Allen got hurt, whatever. But the Texans pulled out the win. Point being here, you got the Houston Texans and the Washington Commanders, both, I believe, at 4-1, 5 weeks into the season. What do they have in common, Josh?
Quarterbacks.
What about them?
Can you repeat the question?
What do the Commanders and the Texans have in common in relation to their quarterbacks?
They were your guys.
They were my fucking guys. And they both went second overall to teams who deservedly earned those second overall picks. And within 1 year, they go from absolute dog shit, everybody's making fun of them, what a poverty franchise, to they might win their division with one guy. That's what the Raiders need.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't just one guy. It was entire turnover. Head coach change in both 1,000%. Situations. Like, yeah,
1,000%.
It was an entirely brand new system, all at one time. They weren't.
And the play caller matters. Yep.
See, right now, look at like Bryce Young with the Carolina Panthers. He's had 18 starts. He's had 3 different head coaches. You know what I mean? Who's to say that Bryce Young couldn't have had that impact in a different situation, in a better situation?
Yeah.
Like what if Bryce Young had went to the Texans and not Stroud?
Yeah. But then again, Bryce Young is another guy who was in college doing these Johnny Manziel things of like making amazing plays in relation to the pocket. And yet we had concerns about his size and stuff like that. And he's playing for this Alabama team that's like, well, when you look at the talent surrounding him, when they're playing against Bowling Green or some random college, it's like, yeah, of course you're going to beat the dog shit out of them. It's Alabama. I don't know. Just there are quarterbacks where I can see it and there are quarterbacks where I can't see it. And that's not that I didn't see it in Caleb Williams and I didn't see it in Bryce Young, but I did see it in those number 2 overall picks the past 2 seasons. So I hope the Raiders get the number 2 overall pick and they pick my quarterback, maybe they do fire Antonio Pierce. At this point, from what I've seen the past couple of weeks, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. Go get the right offensive coordinator. Do whatever you have to do. And if you get that quarterback, anything's possible, clearly. If Washington can do come from what they came from last season to now they're 4-1, they look like they're going to win that division if they just keep it up because of Jaden Daniels and apparently
sensational. Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
He's been sensational.
Honestly, even I didn't think he'd be this good right now. Like, I'll admit that. But
you looked at me sideways when I drafted him in fantasy so high, I reached for him.
Yeah, I mean, we changed our settings to 6-point passing touchdowns, so I was like, well, rushing isn't that big of a thing, and he's a rookie, so he should kind of struggle. But, hey, it paid off. So, yeah. But anyway, we can move on to the Raiders, though.
Yeah. All right, let's rapid fire right here. M. Patel, welcome back, says, can't believe Kyle choked. I can believe it. How many times has it happened recently? Like, we're in week 5, and Kyle choked the Rams game, this game, and the Super Bowl. Those are all in recent memory. Let's see. Raiders season isn't over yet. If they could get Bajent for Minshew and a third or a fourth, the Raiders will get in the playoffs. Getsy's been play calling wide open receivers for 2 years. I will say, I don't think it'll take that much. I don't think it'll take that much to get Bajent. I think you can get him for a fifth.
Yeah, that would be my thought as well. If no offense, if the Raiders did this, if the Raiders give a 3rd round pick for Tyson Bajent, I would not watch another game this season. I would have a very strong disliking of Tom Telesco, like Tyler style. Our buddy Tyler, who's a Chargers fan, does not like Tom Telesco. Would do it for me. No offense. You cannot give up a 3rd round pick when you are probably going to pick a quarterback next year.
All right. You wake up tomorrow morning and the Raiders trade for Tyson Bajent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not thinking about everything, all the hype surrounding everything Gypsy Mike's been saying all night? Or are you not thinking about that?
World.
It's Gypsy Mike's world.
Gypsy Mike's world, and we're just living in it.
Yep.
If I saw Raiders trade for Tyson Bajent, whatever, I'd be like, okay. And then I'd be thinking back on this conversation. I'd be really scared. Like, what did we give up? And if I see 3rd round pick, if I even see 4th round pick, I'd be like, okay.
Hey, they turn it around and win the Super Bowl, dude. Hey, he's like, yeah, Gypsy Mike's saying Tyson Bajent's right there to win Super Bowls. Like, I kind of chuckle, but watch it happen. Watch it happen. That would be nuts, dude. I would say, what inside information do you have? What sports almanac from Back to the Future are you looking at?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just say, I'm definitely curious to see where Tyson Bajent's career goes, but I just don't think the Raiders are in the position. I know it's like the season's still young. They have these 2 quarterbacks who go on the field and they just struggle, but I just take your medicine. I think we got to these are the Antonio Pierce has to act hard-headed, even though he probably wants a different quarterback. He has to act like, you know what? This is the cards we've been dealt this year. We're going to stand by it. That's what he has to do. And at this point, if he really wanted my respect, he would tank. But
M. Patel says Kyle outcoached. Yeah, I didn't even talk about that in the Cardinals recap, but there was a moment in the game where I forget who it was, but there was a penalty on the touchdown, which I'm trying to remember what the penalty was, but it moved the Cardinals up from the 2-yard line, or half the distance to the goal on the PAT, and then the Cardinals decided to go for it, and I thought it was a brilliant decision on the Cardinals' part, or at least on Jonathan Gannon's part, because if the Cardinals were able to just score right then and there, and if they get that, the Niners don't have a kicker to tie, to win a potential game if the Cardinals do get the ball back and they score a field goal. The Cardinals could have been up by 1 like they were, and then the 49ers did end up getting the ball, and here they go march, have to go march down the field and probably score a touchdown, because what, are you going to attempt a game-winning field goal with your punter? I thought that was good coaching by Jonathan Gannon. Meanwhile, I don't know, man. The Niners were they were a funnel to Debo. I mean, not Debo. Ayuk and Kittle today, with a little bit of Jordan Mason sprinkled in between. So I would like to see them feature Jordan Mason. Yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike says, don't let me mess up your show. You're not messing up the show. We appreciate your comments. Was just making some comments, but the Bears going 5-12 if they're lucky. I guess we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, you're not messing up the show. We are going to get to the Raiders. I know we keep saying we are. It's like the whole joke with George R.R. Martin, or whoever's the author of Game of Thrones. The dragons are coming, I promise. I don't know if you watch South Park, but yeah. Super Bowl hangover is real. 0-3 in conference. They're cooked. Yeah, I mean, still early, but it's not looking good. Brock was trash today. He did struggle. So checking out Gypsy Mike said, I subscribe, so don't worry. When Bajan gets to start whenever, I'll say I told you the kid was lights out, Tom Brady 2.0. And yeah, no, we appreciate you for subscribing. We're going to be here all season, like we said, going live week to week. We do post individual, clips. So, yeah. And 3 wins later, Mike will be like, damn, that fucker knows good quarterbacks, LOL.
Hey, I will absolutely say it.
All right, let's get to the Raiders-Broncos recap. Mike, this was a tough one because the Raiders seemed like, I felt really good about my pick early in the game. The Raiders started off, I think, up 10-0, and then everything after that just went wrong, it seems like.
No, it went right. My team won. My Denver Broncos won. No. Yeah, no, it was bad.
Well, yeah. Everything went right.
I did pick the Broncos to win.
You did pick the Broncos to win. And, all right, I wanted to switch my pick so bad to the Broncos, but I just thought about how I switched my pick to the Browns last week, and I was like, all right, I'm going to actually give Antonio Pierce the benefit of the doubt this time. Little did we know there was going to be, like, a huge blow up, like, oh, Devontae Adams has requested trade. After last week, you were like, if Devontae Adams gets traded to the Jets, I am going, you can punch me live.
Yes. Yeah. And here we are. And all I will say is pull your punch. Please pull your punch.
Yeah, it seems like it might be a realistic possibility. The Jets just had a miserable game on offense where it's almost like they were screaming at the Raiders, or, just screaming to the NFL, we need Devontae Adams to pair with the rest of this team.
Yeah. We'll probably get back on Devontae, but man, I'm looking at these upcoming weeks, dude. I'm not even going to lie to you. The Raiders have a bye week in week 10.
Mm-hmm.
Currently on week 5, going on week 6. So we have 4 games before the bye week. Barring any significant change, I think it is, like, for me, 90% likely the Raiders will be going 0-4 the next 4 weeks.
0-4?
Steelers, Rams, Chiefs, Bengals. Spoiler for my pick this upcoming week, but this does not look good. And then Dolphins week 11, they probably have Tua back if he's going to stay in the NFL. Week 12 against the Broncos, they're probably only going to get slightly better. Chiefs again. Buccaneers are pretty good. Falcons are solid. Jags might be the only game on this schedule that I think the Raiders very well, let's call it, should be favored in.
Mm-hmm.
But by that point, it could be completely different. Like they could lose out for all I know. They really could. And I'd
Yeah.
love it. I hope they do.
But you know who's not losing out? You, because you finally got your first Raider pick of the season correct. So I just want to say congratulations, Mike. You know, you are the Raider expert on this channel. So, you know, just congratulations, buddy.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. It took you 5 weeks, but you finally, like, that's the thing, dude. Right now, it's just so hard to predict the Raiders because this happens every single year. It's not even Antonio Pierce as the head coach. The Raiders win games they're not supposed to be in, and then they lose games that they shouldn't. They don't have business losing to those teams. I don't get it. I blame Mark Davis. It stems from the top.
Yeah, that's a long-winded conversation to eventually be had, but you know, there's something there for sure. As far as this Broncos game, I mean, really just going over some stats. You kind of mentioned it before we got onto this, but you know, for people watching this singular video, Alexander Madison was the lead back in this game. Zamir White was out. Madison, 15 carries for 38 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. Awesome. You also had Amir Abdullah, who had 5 carries for 42 yards. Nice. And he had a touchdown at the end of the game when, you know, they were just in garbage time mode, trying to come back, but it was like pretty much impossible without at least one onside kick, which you can't even pretend to like not be doing anymore, which at that point in the game you wouldn't be pretending anyways. Brock Bowers, great game. 8 receptions for 97 yards and a long 57-yard touchdown off 12 targets, his career high. Get used to it because Devontae Adams isn't going to be here anymore. Jacoby Myers had 6 receptions for 72 yards on 9 targets. Nice. And then Trey Tucker, 2 receptions with 18 yards. Nothing else really notable.
I want to give Luke Getsy credit for featuring Brock Bowers this week. Brock Bowers had a hell of a game, and I was sort of worried that last week they didn't have Devontae Adams, and they did not feature Brock Bowers for whatever reason. They kind of got away from him. I'm glad that they were going against a good defense, and so you would think that they would be focusing on Bowers. It didn't matter. Bowers had a good game. And I feel like a lot of that came in the first half. And like maybe he was kind of shut down a little bit, maybe a little bit later in the game. But, you know, I still like that he was and should be the focal point to this offense, because right now without Devontae Adams, I think Brock Bowers is the best skilled position player on the field.
Yep, 1,000%. Gardner Minshew, 12 for 17 for 137 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And then Aiden O'Connell came into this game late, possibly in the third quarter. 10 for 20, 94 yards, and an interception. And then I won't go over any defensive player stats, but Bo Nix was 19 for 27, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Javonte Williams, 13 carries, 61 yards, a 4.7 yards per carry average, along with 17. Raiders are just kind of getting gashed, really, on defense. But the leading receiver for the Broncos was also Javonte Williams, 5 receptions for 50 yards. And they spread the ball around. Jeez, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players receive the ball in this game from Mr. Bo Nix. That's very interesting and probably
hella
smart.
impressive. It's very
impressive,
smart, very impressive.
But Javonte Williams having 5 catches for 50 yards and being the leading receiver as far as like yards tells me a lot about Bo Nix, but clearly it worked. So I'm not going to say that in a negative way. I think the Broncos earned their flowers in this game. and really over the course of so far in this season, besides one stinker of a game, the Broncos are much more impressive than I expected them to be this year. And although I hate to say that, I hate to admit that, I still do because I should. So that's about all I can say before I start throwing up live on air. But
well,
I'd say
Lucky
now we
puts it
can
perfectly.
probably. Yep.
Lucky said that she made a business decision by turning off the TV the minute that Gardner Minshew threw a pick six for Surtain to gain 100 yards. Nasty work.
Yes.
I'm not even going to lie. I started the Broncos defense, and I did pick the Raiders to win this game. I started the Broncos defense just in case because I figure, hey, I can at least be right one of the two ways. And I still felt like the Raiders could have won this game and given up a touchdown to the opposing defense. Like that also crossed my mind. But yeah, no, it sounds like this was just one of those games, and honestly, that's kind of where Raider fans are at right now because they're in quarterback purgatory. They've been for ever since they got rid of Derek Carr, and even the Derek Carr days felt like, man, we need to upgrade at quarterback.
Yep.
So
100%. Yeah, Pat Surtain had a great day against Raiders. He looked like the best corner in football. Mm-hmm. So
you said you weren't going to get into any defensive stats, but I did want to highlight the one player that always deserves praise on the Raiders, and that's Max Crosby. He had 2 sacks, and I think that shouldn't go unnoticed. I think that's good.
Yeah. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Spillane led the team in tackling, 2 tackles for loss. Christian Wilkins had 2 tackles for loss. He was knocked out of this game with a foot injury.
Wilkins?
Jack Jones had a sack. Yeah, Christian Wilkins.
One thing I will say, did Max Crosby was he lined up? I don't know if you know, but was he lined up on Mike McGlinchey? Because if he was, I actually want to take my praise back. He should have had more.
Yeah. I'm sure he was on both sides of the ball.
And he hates McGlinchey, right?
I'm pretty sure he's got a little bit of a thing against him.
Yep.
I think he feels that he might be a dirty blocker or something. I'm not sure. I forget. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just quickly get into Davante Adams, and then we can move on to the preview for next week because I'm tired of talking about this team. I guess I should eat some crow or possibly some Edgar Allan Poe Raven because last week I literally said, if you already mentioned it, but if Davante Adams gets traded to the Jets, I will come over and be walking up behind you on the pod live and say, punch me as hard as you can because that shit's not happening. And then within like 3 days, it was announced that Davante Adams is demanding a trade, and the leading candidate, like literally the team that Davante wants to go to, is the Jets. And I was just sitting there like, I can't even lie. That's fucking hilarious. We were clowning this so much a week ago of like every single week it's like the Raiders lose and it's like
gotta get Davante out of here. Hey,
gotta get out of there.
You know what? We mentioned it so much, and I really feel like, all right, this is crazy. I didn't see anyone else talking about it. So like if you're getting premium content here, we're foreshadowing what's going to happen before it happens. Not on our picks, so to speak, every week. I think we're not doing so good in that, because we don't want to spoil it. Like we still want the games to be, the games to be interesting for you guys.
Right.
Can you hear that helicopter outside?
Not super loud, but yeah.
Is that a helicopter or an airplane? That's weird. It's like 1 a.m. Come on, there's a show going on. Have some respect. All right.
It's been a lot of military aircraft in the past week. It could be military.
Yeah, they're over here turning up the thermostat outside. It's fucking hot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, we sort of like at least to my knowledge, were one of the only people really talking about like the whole Devontae Adams being traded part, because everybody sort of brushed it off. At first, maybe people hinted that maybe Devontae was the business decisions guy, but the red flag was, all right, Devontae's got a hamstring injury. He's just out. He's out this week. I said, no, that stinks like shit. That's bullcrap. I think
Yeah.
like AJ Brown had the hamstring injury for the Eagles, and even he was like, oh, he's gonna try and test it, and he might play, and then it took like a day. It was like, all right, news, Devontae's not playing. He's got a hamstring. Max is out. Michael Mayer's out for a personal reason. And then they sat Jack Jones. Like, this was coming off the business decisions thing. So that's where my mind was at. Like, who is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe Devontae is dealing with a hamstring injury, but I think he will have fresh hamstrings for his next team if he does indeed get traded, which I think they're going to trade him. I really do.
No, they will. I guarantee they will. Like, now you can punch me if they don't, pretty much. I would just say
you just sound reporting, like aren't you?
It'd be great content, really. The reporting is that the Raiders are telling teams like, oh, it's still a 1 to 2 week timeline before his hamstring should be good. So like, I still believe the injury is a thing, but maybe it was self-reported. Like, maybe it's a thing to the Raiders, but it's actually not a thing to Devontae, if that makes sense. Like, he could have just been like, I don't want to play anymore for these guys. I don't know. But, and I didn't even get to, that was the thing I didn't get to say earlier. Robert Spillane was on some podcast, and they asked him like about like, maybe like, is this a distraction right now for the team or something along those lines, with like something revolving around Devontae Adams and like a player getting traded or, looking to get traded. And Spillane's response was something along the lines of like, well, right now we're more focused on the guys who are actually here practicing and putting in the work or something like that. And I was like, interesting use of words right there, So I don't know if he's insinuating that before all of this, that's been an issue, or if he's hurt, he's not here, suddenly he wants to leave. Hey, we're focused on our guys that are here. So what? Maybe he's just being blunt, but not trying to be, like a little jab or anything. It could have just been a blunt, very honest answer, which is fine. I'm not going to turn on Devontae. I like Devontae a lot. I would like him to stay, but I also like when we started this podcast, like there were times where I said like, if they can't get this to work, there's going to come a point where it's like, well, you probably should trade Devontae because you're wasting the end of his prime. If not, that's already passed. And, what's it going to amount to if you're still waiting to draft a quarterback? Like, not every quarterback is going to be, unfortunately, not every quarterback is going to be a CJ Stroud and a Jaden Daniels, where it's like by week 2, it's just like, oh, he's him. That doesn't happen every year. Like, usually what happens is the quarterback has his fair amount of struggles rookie season, and then coming into year 2, the team might trade for a quarterback, say Eagles, AJ Brown for Jalen Hurts, Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen, et cetera, et cetera. This year was the first year for Caleb Williams trading for Keenan Allen, right? And drafting Adunze, But a lot of teams like to surround their quarterbacks with wide receiver talent when they feel like they're ready to take that next step. So it's like, yeah, it's cool that you already have this receiver in Devontae Adams here, but how long is it going to last? So why not go ahead and trade him for a second-round pick plus? That's exactly what my price point would be. That's what the reporting is saying that the Raiders are looking for. I am in agreement with them. I think it's perfectly fine. And if he wants to get out of here, there's no need to keep him. There's no need to make him suffer. Get him out of there. And honestly, I'd like to see him win a Super Bowl because I think he's a Hall of Fame player, and I've followed him since he was at Fresno State. I really do like him. I don't think that there's any issue here as far as him faking anything or him, ever being a bad teammate. I think as long as there's been drama surrounding around Devonte Adams and he should get traded from the Raiders, it's never been because he said something. Or the only time that it was because he said something was because of the heading that the report would put and kind of misconstrue his words. He was never ever implying or suggesting that he wants to leave until he finally put in the trade request and made it official. He never did that shit. He never fucked around. He was never unprofessional. He was always a great Raider, in my opinion. What sucks is the timing was really bad because they had Josh McDaniels, and he came here with hopes of like, let's get this done, Derek Carr. Let's do this. Like, let's do what you have tried for 9 fucking years, Derek Carr, to do with the Raiders, which is go to the playoffs, win playoff games, and strive for a Super Bowl. And then after that season, it's like, well, Derek Carr's out of here, and you're stuck with me, and my name's Josh McDaniels, you know? And then 7 weeks into the next season, he's gone, and Devontae's like, what the fuck are we doing? Right? Jimmy Garoppolo, now Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew can't. I made a really crude joke earlier to my stepdad. Basically, if Gardner Minshew were offered something that any person would love to be offered, but let's just say, because this show is not really, but let's just say this show's for kids. If Gardner Minshew were offered the most perfect steak ever seen, like this is a $200 steak, maybe even more. It's the most expensive steak in the world. Gardner Minshew, you can get this steak for free. If you just make 5 consistently accurate passes, you will get this steak. That motherfucker will not eat because he cannot do it.
Or he'll just have to pay for the steak.
Or he's paying for the steak, yeah, which he can, but I know I'd want that thing for free. So, point is, ever since Derek Carr was forced out, Devontae's been in this, quarterback purgatory with us fans, of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen here. And the end of my career, or end of my prime at least, is getting wasted here. So that's why all the, Devontae to the Jets rumors were all out there and their fans were super excited about it, because it's like the writing is on the wall. Yeah, no shit. Like, he should want out. He should have been wanting out since last year, but he never demanded a trade in the offseason, nothing. But here he is. It's week 4, and he probably sees something that he doesn't like. And honestly, I guess this will be my last point. For one, I don't blame him, but for two, I wouldn't exactly blame him if what pushed him over the edge, this might be like a strong take, I wouldn't blame him if what pushed him over the edge, because he knew coming into the season, like, all right, it's Gardner Minshew, Braden O'Connell. We didn't draft a fucking quarterback. All right, like, I guess I'll do what I can. Michael Pittman had a good year last year with Gardner Minshew. Like, fuck it, all right. What might have pushed him over the edge was fucking Antonio Pierce. With the whole, what did Antonio Pierce say?
Business decisions.
Like, it's probably not out of this world to say that business decisions comment, maybe it rubbed Devontae the wrong way. And maybe I was dead wrong a week or two ago of like, I don't mind it at all. I don't see anything wrong with it. Maybe Devontae did. Or maybe Devontae took a serious exception to hearing that Antonio Pierce liked a post on, I think, Instagram that Devontae Adams had played his last down as a Raider. Let me tell you right now, take Devontae Adams out of that, we are all human. These NFL coaches are humans. These GMs are humans. We've seen many people in the NFL in high-ranking positions get humanized, very much so, in different ways, between John Gruden and Dan Snyder and everything in between.
John Lynch a couple years ago liked a tweet after the 49ers lost to the Tennessee Titans in Nashville, and he liked a tweet that I think said, leave Jimmy G in Nashville or something like that. And then it was like this big thing, and then John Lynch like made an apology tweet, like, "Oh, I'm so I didn't check my phone. I was actually in mass, something like that. I think it was like Christmas. I was in Christmas Eve mass, and I accidentally pressed a button on my phone. Like Antonio Pierce, you couldn't pull a John Lynch, and just like, I'm so sorry. I was too busy making business decisions. I hit the like button on my phone.
Damn kids using my iPad again.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Oh, what if that was the straw that broke the camel's back? It was like one of his kids or relative using the iPad, or and it's logged in, and it's like, well, you just cost me a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah, $30 million wide receiver, Devontae Adams. Point being there, we are all human, but that is not a good look as a professional. Okay? And even though I was not in disagreement with Antonio Pierce 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I guess 2 weeks ago with the business decisions, comment, this season has been pretty damn rough for Antonio Pierce so far. They have a losing record. Their team does not look – their team looks worse than last season, period. And I expected them to look much better than this. And the only thing that was really holding me back was the quarterbacks of like I could see them being the problem. And then, Deke and Luke Getsy, I guess, like, the season kind of rides on him in a way, right? But you have the head coach out here saying questionable things to the media and liking a post that a day later or 2 days later is that about a player who requests a trade and of one of the top stars in this league at that. Like, it's not a good look. And like, they lose this game to the Broncos 34-18. And I'm not going to say that the Raiders have like Antonio Pierce has lost the locker room, but I would say he's at risk of losing it for sure. And if he does, and if things like this continue, by all means, fire him. Like I have been a very big supporter of him, but I was trying as best I could to be careful not to seem like an Antonio Pierce, like, truth or die hard. What matters to me is what's best for this franchise. That's why I want them to tank, because I know it's better for their future. If you could ask any Commanders or Texans fan if they would tank to do it all over again and get that quarterback, they'd say, in a fucking heartbeat, I don't care about 2022, 2023. I don't care. I don't care about 2024. I'm a Raider fan. It is week 5. I don't care about the season. We're not winning shit. Get the quarterback. Get the right coach, whoever that has to be. If you have to go get Mark Davis, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, give Ben Johnson the contract that he cannot refuse. Give whatever up-and-coming offensive coordinator the contract that he can't refuse. Tell him, be our head coach. You can draft whatever quarterback you want. Let's go get this thing done. Because I'm telling you right now, that would be better than whatever the hell probably will happen.
Question. So Mark Davis expressed his interest in Ben Johnson. He's like, I'm not interested. Are you just taking that?
If it's reported that Ben Johnson...
An offer he can't refuse.
Right. And if he says, I'm not interested, then what are we supposed to do?
Reaching out first. Reaching out first, I'm not interested. Then you give the offer that they can't refuse.
It depends on how communications go, really, because in like the NFL, because what I understand is like you don't just contact the head coach and be like, hey, we'll give you $60 million. What do you say? No, you bring him in for interviews and you talk to them, and then once those are done, then you have a second round of interviews, and then after that you might give out offers. It's a process. So if day one it's like, hey, we'd like to bring you in for an interview, and he just says no, it's like, oh shit, like, I don't know if the verbiage is even like properly there to be like, well, here's what we'd give you. Like, you're not interested in that at all? Like, we're trying here. I don't know if you can even do that. I don't know. It just, point being, if I hear that my favorite head coach candidate, which by the way is slowly actually becoming Brian Flores, a guy that I wanted back when they got Antonio Pierce, or actually maybe even Josh McDaniels. I've always thought he'd be a great candidate for the Raiders, and here he is leading probably arguably the best defense in football right now for the shocker of the season so far, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep.
Undefeated, 5-0.
Dude, you know what? The Raiders might all right. The Raiders are in the quarterback market. That's no secret to anybody. If Sam Darnold balls out for the rest of the year and the Vikings have a winning record, how can they put JJ McCarthy on the field?
Yeah, I think at that point
would you not inquire? Would you not inquire about him though?
Oh, I would definitely. About who?
About JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, if that became
he will have not played football in a year, and he would be firmly the backup. Like, they can go the Green Bay Packers route, I guess, but I mean, honestly, it's in their best interest to do that. Yeah. But maybe they might be looking at it like, hey man, we have a problem on our hands. We got two quarterbacks, because some people will say if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any.
Yeah.
Niners back in the day got rid of Alex Smith because they started rolling with Colin Kaepernick, And I guess that's like the reverse of what the Vikings are in, because the Vikings are going with the veteran, and the rookie is the one that got hurt.
I think it really just, what matters there is just what they see on the practice field and how much they really believe in JJ McCarthy and his future. Because I think there comes a point where you have to go with that. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're going to stay undefeated or practically, a top seed in this league with Sam Darnold, it's like, how do you sway away from that next season? Yeah, I agreed. But I don't know. They're just, I could also just see it where, hey, Sam Darnold's about to be a free agent. Unless they franchise tag him, he might just say, well, highest bidder, because my career has been kind of shit so far, and this might be my one chance to get the biggest contract possible. And the Vikings might just be like, you know what, that's fine and fair. We have a guy that we believe in here. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I just the Raiders need to draft a quarterback.
Yep. You know what the Raiders will also do? They will do the Raider thing and lose in their bye week.
Somehow, yeah, something will happen, right?
Yeah. I do want to say, so regarding the whole Davante Adams thing, I let you say your piece, and you're a Raider fan, and you talked about how, you have a lot of love for Davante Adams, and I'm not a Raider fan. For those of you watching at home, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to talking about the Raiders. I don't hate the Raiders, and I have a lot of people who I care about who like the Raiders. I just love football, and I love talking about football. I love fantasy football. I love all big picture stuff about teams. I love team histories, team histories, stuff like that. When it comes to the Davante Adams sort of experience for Raider fans, don't let me try and tell you that it wasn't as good as maybe you remember, because maybe you really enjoyed having Davante Adams. But from my outside perspective, I couldn't see a more miserable experience to have with a player the caliber of Davante Adams. It felt like, we joked about it last week. Every single week it was, oh, we got to get Davante out of here. Just trade him already. This stuff. I couldn't imagine, the constant narrative around him was that he wanted out. Every single week, that was the constant narrative, whether it was the truth or not. And I couldn't imagine walking that tightrope as a fan. I would just say, you know what? Get him the fuck out of here already. I don't want to hear it. Because where there's smoke, there's fire, in my opinion. And I think, I don't know, dude. That would just drive me nuts. It's like this guy, every single day, we're talking about, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. And it's like, well, why the fuck do we got to get rid of him? You know, he's a superstar. Obviously, I mean, the answer is obvious. It's because they don't have the quarterback to pair with him. So they're, the Raiders are wasting him. But like, he wanted to come to the Raiders, and I don't know. The Raiders' mistake was Josh McDaniels in the first place. That was the mistake, right? Huge mistake. And then Josh McDaniels pushed Derek Carr out, and that was the main reason why Davante Adams wanted to come to the Raiders. Also because, it's closer to his family and everything. But I don't know, man. I think that's got to be awful, right? Raider fans in the comments, tell me how you feel. Like this, it was always a topic, and I couldn't imagine a more exhausting thing for a superstar wide receiver.
Yeah. If you're saying it's exhausting for the receiver, yes, I agree with you. Like everything that you just said is like, oh, it's super exhausting for him. Yeah, sure.
No, for the fans. For the fans.
That's what I thought you were saying. That's what I thought you were saying. I completely disagree with you because my realistic take was until he says that he wants out, and he's been very strong up until week 4 or whatever to deny that he wants out. I'm going to believe that he wants to stay here, all while, ever since Derek Carr was, let go by the Raiders, it made sense to me that the rest of the NFL fandom thought, well, the obvious thing to do here is to trade Davante. They should trade Davante. If the Raiders GM's smart, they'll get something for Davante or whatever. Or just, I hope my team trades for Davante because at some point he's going to request a trade. The writing was on the wall. I think it's miserable for him. Is it miserable for the Raider fans? Yes, because the writing's on the wall because we fucking suck. And we are not the perfect scenario for him. The perfect scenario for him is the Ravens, the Jets, the Saints, a team that could use a top dog receiver and is looking to make a playoff run. And I think the Ravens would be nasty with that trio.
The perfect team for Davante Adams
is in the AFC West.
It's not going to happen. It is one of the two AFC West teams, between the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's not going to happen. The Raiders are not going to trade Davante Adams there. And if they do, I'm sorry, that's dumb.
If they do, then Tom Telesco is on my whatever list you want to call it, but he's on that list for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's definitely up there, with probably the worst people in history,
Yeah. It would not be fun. Now, no, it just you can't do that. So that's kind of all I have for Davante, but I'd say I wouldn't be shocked if when we come into next week's pod, next Sunday night, if Davante Adams is a member of another NFL team. I think the trade can absolutely and probably should get done this week. But if his hamstring is still bothering him, then perhaps it takes another week. But it'll be done within 2 weeks, guaranteed.
I think the Ravens should try and push to trade for him. That would make an already practically unstoppable offense just that much more dynamic.
Yeah, and the more that this team wins, the more I think that this team makes a lot of sense. But the Washington Commanders would be a great team for him, specifically because they look like a legitimate playoff team, and they don't have a true number one receiver. They would take Jaden Daniels from what is already pretty much. If he even barely keeps it up, he's for sure the rookie of the year. You would turn the rookie of the year into an MVP candidate, legitimately. he wouldn't win MVP because I don't think a rookie has ever done that and probably will never do that. But just look for a winning team that needs a true, star receiver and add him to the list. I'd say the rumor is that the Jets and the Saints are kind of the leading candidates because the Jets is where he wants to go and the Saints have made a strong push. That's what I've seen. So
if the season ended today, who's the NFL MVP right now?
I
wouldn't even be opposed to
man.
saying Jaden Daniels, and he's a rookie.
I wouldn't be opposed to saying Jaden Daniels. Let me look at something. Let me look at something real quick here. Okay, let's see. Leaders.
You're gonna say Kirk Cousins?
Oof. What is the Buccaneers record? Are they like 4-1, 3-2? I'm guaranteeing they have a winning record.
Hold on. They are 3-2.
3-2. So I'd say that the top. I'll give you the top 5 options for MVP: Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. Those are your top 5. And Lamar Jackson started off 0-2, maybe even 0-3. I think 0-2 though. Sam Darnold's 5-0. He's been doing really good, man. But he has the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
It's a great question. It really is. I would probably be picking between excuse me, Baker, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels right now.
Yeah. That's why I don't think it's so crazy for a rookie to win MVP. I think it'll eventually happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it. It's just, man, that'd be one crazy award show. I'll throw out one other dark horse MVP candidate, Zamir White. He's been killing it this year. Fantasy managers of him must be ecstatic about him.
You know what? Don't talk shit about Zamir White. I like Zamir White.
He's fine. He's gonna go. He'll either the Raiders will change their offense this offseason, or he'll eventually go to an offense with like a power scheme and like actually good play calling, and he'll be a stud for sure.
Let's go ahead and switch over. We'll preview the Raiders versus Steelers, and then we'll get to the rest of the comments, and then we'll call it a night here. It's 1:10 in the morning. Just for everybody watching who isn't watching live. So hello from the past. Mike, let's go ahead and talk about who is going to win the Raiders versus Steelers game and what we can expect.
Can we just make it quick?
Here, I'll sort of break it down. I think that the Steelers have a great defense, and that is going to pose a lot of problems for the Raiders offense, which is a poor offense right now. If we're really simpling it down, dumbing it down to that, the Raiders are going to struggle on offense. TJ Watt is going to be a factor. I think the Steelers, while they don't have a great offense, which will go against the Raiders defense, which hasn't, they haven't been bad. They've been pretty decent.
Right. A little back and forth.
Yeah, a little up and down here and there. I will go ahead and take the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. They just narrowly lost to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football just a couple hours ago. But yeah, where is this? In Pittsburgh or is this? No, this is at home. This is in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel good betting. I don't feel good betting on the Raiders right now.
No, I too am picking the Steelers, and it's not even close for me. especially coming off a loss. Like Mike Tomlin won't lose twice in a row. There's no fucking way.
Why is it not close to you? What are the reasons that you are picking the Steelers? Just for
Honestly, this is really
argument's sake.
bad. This is really bad commentating or whatever you want to call it. But it's because it's the Steelers. It's because it's Mike Tomlin and he doesn't have losing records. Just like the Cowboys game, they should have won, but for the most part, they win the games that they should win, whereas the Raiders don't. And maybe that's why the Raiders might actually be in this game, is because they win the games that they shouldn't and they lose the games that they shouldn't. And this is a game to me that they shouldn't win. And I strongly believe they won't win this game.
I have a feeling we're gonna get on like a little streak here of like correct predictions. What do you think?
I think so. I hope so.
I
Because
think
I'm not picking the Raiders.
maybe we've cracked a little bit of a code here.
Yeah,
So
bet against the Raiders.
yeah, no. Like I said, for me, it's the defense. So that Pittsburgh Steelers defense is nasty. What realistically are the Raiders going to be able to do on offense? If they do something, then next week I'll just say, man, what the hell is up with this team? Like one like if they're incredibly inconsistent, that just like that's kind of a knock on Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
I'll
say one last note is just it's possible that Aiden O'Connell will start this game. Not by any means do I think it's like super likely, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. So Steelers only if Aiden O'Connell starts, right? I'm just kidding.
No, just in general. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Let's take these comments.
Let's take these comments, and then we'll get out of here for the night. We appreciate everybody for staying here with us and just hanging out after what seemed to be a rough week 5 for both of our teams. But so Devontae, checking out Gypsy Mike says Devontae Adams was saying, "Get me the ball" last year when Bajent beat them. Do you think Antonio Pierce told him to stay? They'd get a good quarterback and get him the ball, and he stayed. Would you keep him if you could, or trade him?
I mean, I kind of probably already answered it, but I think the correct thing to do is to trade Devontae, get draft capital right now because we need to draft a quarterback, and just get youth on this team and hopefully get the right youth on this team to where you can build a foundation for that quarterback that you draft and hopefully start winning like the Texans and Commanders of years past in the past 2 years. So I would be trading Devontae. But you have a great theory within this of maybe AP told him, like, hey, man, we'll get you the ball. And then it's still up and down of like, all right, this week he only got 4 targets. What the hell? And then the next week he gets like 12. And it's like, there you go. Maybe that was a thing where it's like week to week he's like, God damn it, give me more targets. And then give him more targets. And he's like, thank you. And then the next week they're like, all right, now let's go back to the ordinary game plan. He's like, what the fuck? We lost, dude. Throw me the ball more. I don't know. It could be anything. But
Lucky says, remember Tay Adams vouched for Getsy. When we needed Tay Adams, he dropped crucial passes. Or he drops crucial passes.
Yeah, the reporting is that he vouched for Luke Getsy, and like I don't think by any means was it like Devontae was picking the offense coordinator, but it's funny that he had a big say or help in picking the offense coordinator, which bear in mind, like it almost seemed pretty clear that we got like our third favorite choice at best at offensive coordinator. Because the offensive coordinator for Washington, who is succeeding very much so right now, was the guy that we had a deal in place with, apparently. And then that fell through, Cliff Kingsbury. So, it is funny, though, that, now Devontae is demanding a trade, and he has had some drops. He had a couple drops in that Ravens game. So, whatever.
Yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike says, Getsy's a good coach. If you didn't see it last year, Fields said in an interview that he couldn't remember everything Getsy was trying to teach him. It was too much, and he felt like a robot doing it all. So I don't know if that tells me that Getsy is a good coach, and more so that, I mean, he's smart. He's very smart. Like, maybe we can give Getsy credit, but I mean, is Justin Fields just that hard to work with, or does Getsy need to do a better job of simplifying the offense in a way that the players that he has at hand can understand? Because you can have all these ideas, but if your system doesn't work with the players that you have, you're not going to have you're not going to have a great time that season. I think that a great coach will build a system around the personnel that they have, and not just try and have the system in place and then just find perfect fits within that system. I think great coaches, are able to switch it up and not just, well, this is the way that I run things. And that's one of the issues that I personally have as a Niner fan with Kyle Shanahan, because I feel like Shanahan is more of the, less of the, I want the best available players on the field at the same time, and more of this is just the way that I run my offense. And I think that's why, like, there's this sort of like big battle right now about like why Juwan Jennings isn't getting more playing time, when every single time Juwan Jennings is on the field, good things happen. And I think Kyle Shanahan just really likes to, have a fullback on the field, Kyle Juszczyk, run the ball, and, have Juszczyk being the lead blocker. And that's just the way that the Shanahans have done it since Kyle was a kid, since Mike Shanahan was calling plays in the NFL. And that's it. Get used to it. This is the way things are going to be. And I don't know. Lecky asks, if Getsy was a good coach, why did the Bears let him go? Help me understand.
Yeah, because they still have the same head coach. So it's like, well, they determined that somebody had to go, and really they overhauled their offense. Really, I think what it tells me is they didn't want him to. This sounds dumb, but they didn't want him to be the one touching on Caleb Williams. They didn't want him being the coach of Caleb Williams. They wanted somebody else. So that is telling for sure. He's not. I said earlier, he's not a quarterback whisperer.
Like he says, Jets fans are in the same situation as us. People act like they're a contender. Shaking my head. I think the Jets do have much better quarterback play than the Raiders currently do, and I think that makes a huge difference.
And their offensive line is better too, I'd say. And the running game, in theory, should be better, but they've been kind of struggling. And their defense is a bit better as well, even though on paper it's like, oh, it should be similar, but
Mm-hmm. Checking out, Gypsy Mike says, Getsy was the scapegoat for, how do you pronounce that? Poles or Poles?
It's Poles. Ryan okay. Poles.
Ryan Poles. And Eberflus, Matt Eberflus losing. They should have replaced Fields 2 years ago and didn't. Not did they fix the O-line. So they didn't fix the O-line. Eberflus will probably be fired this year for Williams sucking. They won today, didn't they?
Yeah, they killed the Panthers, which the Raiders couldn't do.
They're supposed to kill the Panthers, but yeah, the Raiders are supposed to kill the Panthers too. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Max Crosby talking to a reporter today is all I needed to hear, says Lecky.
Yeah, there was something there. I guess he didn't name drop the person that went on the Pat McAfee show, but Max Crosby consistently called this dude a clown. Not Pat McAfee, but the guest that went on and was saying you know, basically worrying or whatever you want to call it, wondering why Max Crosby didn't attend the Week 4 game against the Browns, due to his high ankle sprain. And basically saying like clearly there's like an issue in the locker room and something along those lines with like leadership and stuff. And Max Crosby post game today, after having 2 sacks, playing on probably what is still a high ankle sprain, was like, you got these clowns out there like talking on my name. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like I was doing what I needed to do to get my foot right. That's why I wasn't at the game. And that person that he was talking about was Michael Lombardi, which we have talked about him before in relation to like Trey Lance and stuff, and kind of just opening his mouth a little too much. So, hey, Max Crosby called him a clown. He didn't name drop him, but people found out pretty quick who he was talking about. So,
yeah. Lucky says, look at Dolphins. Tyreek Hill is frustrated, and yet the media puts us in the spotlight, referring to the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders right now are in the national media spotlight. I think they're kind of brushed off to the side as the Raiders are just being the Raiders.
It's just Devontae's put in the spotlight right now, really. And as far as the Dolphins, I would say the difference between the Dolphins and the Raiders is the only way that this makes sense for Tyreek Hill, he should be all over the media, Tyreek Hill needs to get traded, is if Tua retires. Because if Tua doesn't retire, Tyreek Hill has a very optimistic outlook on the rest of this season and moving forward, whereas Devontae still doesn't because his quarterbacks are fucking garbage. That's the difference. Is for Tyreek Hill, it's like, yeah, the past couple weeks have sucked, but he's getting paid. They actually gave him a pay raise this offseason that they didn't need to give him. Like, I think he should be perfectly fine with what he's doing. If anything, because he's getting less targets and less work, he's probably staying healthier. It sucks to lose, but hey, he's won Super Bowls in the past. He's chilling. He just wants to play Fortnite, really. Whereas Devontae, the writing is just on the wall, and the rumors just swirled for years that, Devontae needs to get traded. He probably wants to get traded. It makes sense that Devontae was in the spotlight and Tyreek Hill hasn't been, in my opinion.
Yeah. Lucky says, if anything, it's Devontae Adams' fault that he wanted to come here. He forced his way out of Green Bay to come to the Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't fully disagree with you here. It's tough. I think where I agree with you is like, hey, you're a player, you're under contract. What are you going to do about that? The best thing you can do is just play better and earn a better contract. But, this is a world in which the players have their own power. So demanding trades and whatnot, holding out gets things done. And I just think probably what Devontae Adams didn't expect coming into this. Yeah, he got the big deal. Granted, the final 2 years of his big deal, where it was backloaded, are not guaranteed, which you could argue that's on his fucking agent. But what he probably didn't, expect coming to the Raiders, which was such bad dysfunction as a franchise, because they wouldn't keep their head coach and GM intact a year and a half after he got there. And then you get a new head coach and GM, and it's like, let's build our own team to our vision. What does that mean? You're probably going to lose at first. You're probably going to suck at first, and that's where we are right now. And he didn't expect Derek Carr to be gone within a year of him getting there, because Derek Carr's been there for 10 years prior. So it's like, of course, Derek Carr's going to be the quarterback of the Raiders. Let's get this done. Boom, he comes in. Josh McDaniels sucks. Pulls Derek Carr. You're out of here, dude. And then is Jimmy Garoppolo, who just does not fit well with Devon. It just, like, I agree. He forced his way here. He signed the contract, all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, he is trying to make the Hall of Fame. And I can't fault him for being like, I got to do what I got to do, and just getting, frankly, tired of this shit, because I think if you look at it from certain lenses, you feel about it a little differently. If I were like I'm very appreciative of things that happen to me in life, and I feel like Devontae Adams is too. But he's a seasoned veteran, and I know I've worked at my job for quite a few years now, and it's like I see stupid bullshit happen, and I'm like, that is stupid bullshit, right? Devontae Adams can do the same thing. If it's my first day on the job, I'm not going to be like, I mean, if it's really bad, then it's really bad, and it's like, yeah, this is probably toxic. I should get out of here. But if it's like you don't know any better or something, or you're just appreciative of like having the job, you're not going to be like, actually, I want to get traded. You know, I guess just if you look at it from a certain lens, the mindset changes. Like from a fan, it's like, well, dude, if I were getting paid millions to play for my favorite football team, I wouldn't have any complaint. Right, yeah. But if you look at it from the lens of a seasoned veteran who has a Hall of Fame track record, but probably just needs to win a Super Bowl to really, you know, convincingly become a Hall of Famer, getting sent to this dysfunctional ass team, GM after GM, head coach after head coach, is not good for his career outlook. And the quarterbacks that they're putting in front of him, if I were him, would push me over the edge.
Yeah. I can definitely see the frustration there. And, he's been very vocal. He wants to win a Super Bowl. And right now, the Raiders are far, far from the Super Bowl. So I do think, though, I still hold true. That's very frustrating for the fans because, like he says, he forced his way here. This is like, I don't know how many times I have to make this SpongeBob reference on this podcast, but it's like the kid crying, I didn't want pistachio ice cream. And then, well, why did you ask for it? Why'd you force your way on the Raiders? Because even with Derek Carr, you're not going to, it wasn't a Super Bowl team. It wasn't.
I got two things for you. First off, earlier when you talked about this, and you said, I can't imagine a more miserable, fan experience or something relative to a player. Yes. I can give you two words. Randy Moss. Okay? 2. You also have to consider, again, looking at it through a certain lens here and looking at it from Devontae Adams' lens, why did he want to leave the Packers? Because the writing was on the wall that Aaron Rodgers was about to leave the Packers. And if only he had the foresight that Jordan Love was going to be as good as Jordan Love was going to be. But it's like, well, do I want to stay here and hope that Jordan Love is good and that might fuck my career? Or do I want to go to a guy who I believe in and I have a very deep friendship with in Derek Carr? That makes sense. He didn't order, the Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew Raiders. He ordered, as far as pistachio goes, he ordered Derek Carr's Raiders, where Derek Carr has always been the quarterback as long as I've been in the league. And then 1 year in, it's like, pull the rug out from under you. That's not happening anymore. Have fun with Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew.
Okay, but the thing is, Derek Carr was going into a contract year. That was his contract year. He was going to have to be paid $40 million after that, and the Raiders were not going to meet that price. Derek Carr was not not worth $40 million, or at least at that point, he was not.
I think NFL players, I'm going to be really honest with you here. I think NFL players can be very stupid, or no, not stupid. They're very naive when it comes to contracts, because at the time when Devontae came here, Derek Carr was on year 1 of 3 on his contract. He was not in a contract year. What he was in was a time period in which he needed to stay on the team for his guarantees to kick in. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. But he had 2 more years, $42 million per year. So from Devontae's eyes, it's, I'm locked in with Derek for 3 years.
I think you're right.
That's why Derek Carr was let go, because the guarantees were going to kick in by March 20th. So they set that date as the timeline to get a trade done, or we'll cut you. And Derek Carr was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go visit with these teams. I'm going to tell you to fuck off when you ask me if I want to get traded. Rightfully so, because that's the leverage that Derek Carr had. But he was on a 3-year deal, and year 1, he just signed it. And then Devontae comes over. So it was like, fuck yeah, Devontae, let's get this. Devontae gets traded to the Raiders. He signs a 5-year deal. The last 2 on that deal were not guaranteed. So what does he think? If his agent is like hyping him up on that, it's, hey, if you play good enough, the Raiders aren't going to let you go. You're going to get that money. And even if you don't get that money, you're going to play 3 years with Derek Carr. And then it didn't happen. So
yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike says Ben Johnson may want to win a Super Bowl first before moving on, and demand being the general manager too, or have the team that he wants that aren't looking for a head coach yet. I don't think it's so much the first
a head coach
part.
is not going to demand a head coach. Sorry, is not going to demand being a general manager unless he's like Bill Belichick or something. Even like Jim Harbaugh, like he's not the GM. But
it happens, right, dude. Chip Kelly.
It happens.
Chip Kelly was the GM as well for the Niners too.
Yeah, I mean,
as awful as that.
I just don't.
No. Wait, Trent Baalke. I think Trent Baalke was. Sorry.
Yeah. Like I don't think a first-time head coach is going to come in and be like, I want to be the GM too. But they could very much say, I want to pick my GM, and then they pick a guy who's going to, more so follow his orders than he follows the GM's orders. And that's fine and fair, I guess. But, I do agree with, I think Ben Johnson wants to go to the right situation because he opted to stay with the Lions probably with that in mind of like, I'm not going to go and leave this successful thing that I'm a part of to go and struggle with the Jacksonville Jaguars,
Mm-hmm.
So I think something that could entice a head coach is if you have a premium draft pick to pick a quarterback, like a Cliff Kingsbury going to the Washington Commanders.
Or a quarterback already who just needs to be, molded a little bit, like Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh. Absolutely. Yes.
Lucky says, fans keep talking about drafting a quarterback. Who's going to be blocking for him? Our offensive line has been sus.
God help us.
Raiders need to keep Devontae Adams, make Bowers the tight end / slot receiver, and Mayer the main tight end. With a good quarterback, Adams will get his catches, and the Raiders will kick some ass. I don't think Adams is going to stay for that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in like week 1 and 2. But no, I'm in full agreement and belief and acceptance that Devontae Adams will not be a Raider within the next 2 weeks.
So you're telling me that – hold on. You're telling me – I'm going to share my screen real quick. You're telling me this guy is not the answer at quarterback? Dove Kleiman trending. Gardner Minshew was caught picking his nose and eating boogers on the bench.
That's great.
I think that's reason enough to just bench him.
That's reason enough to just cut the stream. Go to bed.
Dude, wasn't there a stream where we were talking about like boogers or whatever? We were talking about that, and now the prophecy has been fulfilled. Gardner Minshew has eaten his own boogers. Another thing that we foreshadowed.
So now's a good time as ever to announce that next week we're going to have Booger McFarland on as a guest, and he's going to tell us that if the Raiders can't outscore the Rams, then the Rams will win that game.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that people don't understand about football. Like, it's a really complex game. Like, the Raiders, if they can find a way to just put up more points than the Steelers, I really like their chances in winning that football game.
Absolutely.
Well put, right?
Yeah, I think you can't be wrong there, really.
No disrespect to Booger McFarland. It's the meme. It's the meme, man. Watt will take AOC's head off. Minshew will get in, and I don't know the exact definition of this saying, so I'm not going to say it. I don't know if I'm allowed, but I have heard it before. I just, I don't know if Urban Dictionary is gonna get me in trouble with
I
that
do
one.
get his point of Minshew being able to escape pressure would help against TJ Watt for sure. But I don't think it matters in this game, man. Steelers defense is going to do some things that shouldn't be on television.
Fields left Georgia because he couldn't learn to be a pocket passer. Lots of dudes who were successful in college bust in the NFL. Pause. Williams may be a bust. They've had to dumb down the playbook for him. Yeah, I mean, Fields, I didn't think was the solution for the Raiders because of reasons like that, because it just seems like Fields wants to run the ball. But, here we are. And I guess we'll see this week how Justin Fields looks against the Raiders defense. But I would almost rather have Justin Fields right now for 6th round pick than Gardner Minshew for what, 15 million?
Yeah.
So, if they're both going to be 1-year rentals, give me Fields.
Yeah.
Will Patrick Bateman is back to return some tapes again. Yo, we lost. Kyle looked lost out there, man. Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a 10-point lead. It's not so hard. You just run the ball. You don't turn the ball over. And you just close out the game. It's really not that hard, Kyle. But Niners win that game if Jordan Mason doesn't fumble. They probably have a better chance of winning that game if Jake Moody doesn't get hurt. It's not the most egregious Kyle Shanahan collapse that I've seen. And, if you want like a more in-depth breakdown of like, or just more in-depth reaction to the, to the game, it should be posted tomorrow, or you can just rewind this video and start from the beginning. But yeah, on to next week. I think that next week's matchup is a little bit better for the Niners because Geno Smith is not Kyler Murray in terms of mobility, although he is much better than I remember in terms of being mobile. So yeah, it was a frustrating game today. It wasn't as frustrating as the Minnesota game, but it was a game we should have won. So, Niners outplayed the Vikings. Not the Vikings. The Cardinals most of the game. Just let it go. Just like the Rams game. So hopefully this NFC West match is not going to be the same. Checking out Gypsy Mike, back with another comment about Tyson Bagent. Says, another reason I like Bagent is he's not worried about the money. He was asked about doing commercials for like a soda company, and he said he wouldn't do one for $3 million because soda is unhealthy. I want to say Steph Curry does the same thing too. I think Curry does like water commercials because they're healthy. So I guess what I'm gathering from this stream here tonight is that Tyson Bagent is the second coming of Stephen Curry. He's the football equivalent to Steph Curry. So, no, I mean, honestly, you telling me all this, I think is giving me more faith in Tyson Bagent. I thought that he looked good last year, but I didn't really know what to make of it. But, I do remember him being better than Fields in terms of running that offense. So, yeah. His new nickname is Booger in terms of Gardner Minshew. Yeah, I think that's honestly, that's probably the best spot for us to end the show tonight. Mike, it was a great show. Aside from like horrible, football that had to grace our eyes today from both of our teams. What was worse, Mike, the game or the booger? What's more disgraceful?
Probably the booger, because I expected the game. I didn't expect a booger.
Yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike. You guys ever watch the 7 podcast? No, I haven't even heard of it. Are they good?
Mm.
No disrespect to them. Like if they're huge and I haven't heard of it, like that's just on me for being uncultured. We're not Panthers fans. It could be worse. Honestly, I mean, all right. As far as like, I don't know, their situation is pretty bad, but it has gotten exponentially better ever since they started playing Andy Dalton. I think that offense looks a lot better. Chuba Hubbard has a lot more juice, and they're about to get what's his face back, Jonathan Brooks. So, I mean, it's still. I would say they were a dumpster fire before, and right now they're just a dumpster. So, right now the Raiders are a trash can. Can we call the Raiders right now a trash can?
Yeah.
Or just hot garbage? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, hot garbage. And right now the Niners are, they're just old. I mean, look, they're just old. Happy Gilmore reference if you didn't catch it. But one last comment about Tyson Bagent before we're out of here. But Tyson Bagent is a CrossFit dude. Okay. So the 7 podcast, he has Tyson. That podcast has Tyson Bagent on often. You get a great insight on what he's all about. So, I mean, is he a regular? Is he, was this like a one-time thing? Like, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I personally have not been looking for Tyson Bagent content, but maybe I will going forward. That's the show. I do want to thank checking out Gypsy Mike for commenting throughout the entirety of today's episode. I think he was the first to comment and probably the last to get a comment in here. I want to thank Will for coming back. Will, this is 3 weeks in a row. We really appreciate the support. Lecky, I can't even count. Lecky's been here for a couple weeks. It's been awesome to answer comments. And then M. Patel came back today frustrated about another 49er loss. I know he was very upset about the loss to the Rams. And Raider Ryan, thank you for tuning in. I want to say Raider Ryan said that he subscribed as well. But, it was cool to hear that he's a Raider fan, his wife's a Niner fan, and his son's a Seahawks fan. That's got to be a weird family dynamic. Mike, do you remember like 10 years ago when it was like the Oakland Seahawks? Like the Raider fans rooting for the Seahawks just to kind of go against the Niners, and then also Marshawn Lynch was on the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of like the dynamic over there where, Raider Ryan was sort of at. But last comment, checking out Gypsy Mike says, enjoyed, fellas. No, it was great to answer questions, just talk about football. And we'll see you guys next week. Mike, any last words?
Tank.
Take your medicine, Raider fans. You got to get a quarterback.